don't know if you're familiar with, have you ever heard of David Shacklefield? He wrote Feminism Exposed.
I have not read it, but I've heard of
Okay,
it.
it's an article, it's an essay.
Okay.
It is superb. So I recommend that people read it. It won't take you very long, but and this was written in 2012. What's interesting is this stuff has been going on for a long time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
People just haven't been able to talk about it. So in 2012, he said that the feminine archetype is dominant in Western society, and he said that, and the the dangerous part is that we are completely blind to the shadow side of the archetype.
Mm.
So, and everyone's familiar with masculine, toxic masculinity or negative shadow masculine traits, but we don't talk about the feminine shadow traits. And so that's what he discusses in his essay, which the shadow side of the feminine is deception and covert aggression.
Mm.
And in her book On Girl Out, I think her name is Rachel Simmons, possibly, she says that covert aggression isn't just about not getting caught. Half of it is looking like you never do anything to hurt anyone in the first place. And so, whether you like him or not, I know it's not a good time to bring him up because, he's getting a lot of heat right now. But Elon Musk, a while back, sent out a tweet and he said, evil under the guise of doing good. And
Mm.
so that's covert aggression. It's like, as long as you say, oh, I'm the good guy, then you can do whatever the hell you want. So we've seen things in the last few years that I think are shocking to most people. I think
Yeah.
just
At a micro level, you're pointing to something that a lot, and this ties in well with your book. And we are here today with, and I'm going ahead and recording, by the way. We're here with Michelle Langley, author of Women's Infidelity 1 and 2, correct? And those came out how long ago?
Women's Infidelity came out in 2005 or
Oh wow.
2008, 2008, 2008.
Okay. It's
I
been a
think
little while. Wow.
2005. Yeah, maybe in 2005 and then 2008. Isn't that terrible? It's been so
Gotcha.
long.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's been so long. Well, good for
Yeah.
you. And how that ties in with what you were just talking about is that female infidelity is still seen to this day by many people as an artifact of, well, something must have happened to her, usually as a result of what the
The
man
man
did.
did something wrong.
What did you do, dude? In
Yeah.
essence. Um, while I'm here telling a lot of people, no, I've talked to, at this point, over 1,000 men who have endured the infidelity. And by the way, if you don't know my story, 12 years ago, right here, I endured that myself. Is that 10 times out of 10, when I sit and listen to these stories, I say, tell me about something in her childhood. Tell me about mom and dad. Tell me, there's something deeper at play here that is, in essence, kind of just been bubbling under the surface, and then it pops. And we see it in form of infidelity. We see it as abandoning the children, very almost teenagery kind of rebellious behavior. And for the men that I talk to, a lot of men are very anxious, people pleaser types, Mr. Nice Guy types, as they call it. There was a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy, written by Dr. Robert
Very
Glover, who's a
familiar with
friend
it.
of ours. And
Oh, he's a friend of yours?
yeah, we've
Yeah,
done
yeah.
events
It's a
together. We've
great book.
corresponded.
It's a
Very good
great book.
book. Great book. And those men tend to connect with, this isn't every one of them, but a lot of them, type A women, career focused. They didn't have much in the way of parenting growing up. They kind of had to take care of themselves. They couldn't really depend on mom and dad. So they were the ones that are driver of everything in their relationship, very controlling. And they get with a guy who's like, yeah, whatever you say, sure, that's fine. That type of guy. And something happens within the relationship in the marriage, and it's the turning point, and the woman starts looking at herself as, I'm kind of tired of taking care of everybody. I'm kind of tired of doing this and doing that. I've lost my sense of identity for whatever reason. Who am I? What am I? And a lot of them regress and start regressing back to a teenagery-like behavior. And next thing you know, they're sleeping with,
Though, that they were mature to begin with.
which
Do
is,
you see what I mean? And
yeah,
I'm going to be a little bit, or play devil's advocate just a little bit.
please. Yes,
So,
absolutely.
do we go back into, like, if a squirrel cheats on her mate, do we go, what happened, mom, there? Like, what did mom do to baby squirrel? Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
What we do is we completely exclude women from their animal nature.
Very good. Yeah.
Okay.
That was my
And
next
so,
point. Yeah.
and we completely limit men. We just, oh, he's only his animal nature.
Mm.
You see what I mean? And it's just not and I'm not saying that things don't happen in people's childhood, but we never do that with a man. Oh, he cheated on his wife with his hot secretary. I wonder what happened in his childhood that would make him want to have sex with that absolutely stunning hot woman. I mean, with the big tits, and she was
Yeah.
just, I don't know what would make him do that. He must have been beat as a child.
Yeah, it's not as simple as, oh, obviously your woman's got problems, that's why she did that next.
Yeah.
No,
But
because
it's just that we have impulses. So the whole purpose of women's infidelity was to let people know women are not naturally monogamous. Okay. They are as monogamous as the law allows. And so why do so many women cheat today? And why are they become so brazen with it? Because they can. And there's no consequence because the man, she's going to say, well, it's something you did. So the purpose of the book was let's start from the place that women aren't naturally monogamous so that when they do cheat, they're held accountable for it. If I can blame someone for something that I do wrong, and that's what we do with women all the time. So it doesn't matter, a woman kills her child. Oh, I remember, I think it was a case in Canada where the reporter said, I feel so sorry for her. And it was like mind boggling. This woman had just killed her kids, you know? So we're always looking to empathize with the woman to make excuses for her, but we don't do that for men. So my point is that in order for women to have equality, they have to be held equally accountable. Otherwise, they'll never feel equal. It'll always be the victim mindset. Do you see what I mean? So it's kind of like that's the missing link.
There's also, and you just touched on it, kind of an elephant in the room thing, which is becoming more and more prominent in popular culture. Thank you to psychotherapist Esther Perel. You're familiar with her, Mating in
Yeah.
Captivity. There is another lady by the name of Wednesday Martin who wrote a book called Untrue, and I'm trying to think, her first book was very popular. But and a friend of ours in our world at Help for Men, Dad Starting Over, is a lady that calls herself Dr. Psych Mom, Dr. Samantha Rodman Whiten. And all these ladies, they're ladies, mind you. This is something that when women hear me say this, they jump on me for saying this. But no, these are ladies with PhDs and doctor whatever's after their name that say the same thing. Sorry, guys. Women tend to, within the confines of a strict monogamous relationship, if sexuality was here at the early honeymoon stage dating phase, it goes, and then when they have kids, it goes, which kind of proves the point of, are women just not naturally monogamous in the way that we thought they were? We
right.
tend
Some
to.
people believe that women are uh, more affected by familiarity, which means because you enter a new hot man, then it's a completely different thing. And the one thing that, I see, because I talk to women every day, I talk to men every day. So I have both clients and, women have sex with young men a lot, men without any money. So it's like the husband is the more stable figure and it's you know, the tennis coach, the trainer, or and guys that don't make money at all. Just so the but she's with him. He's for looks and sex, and youth. So it's a similar thing. And when you keep in mind too, so let's say for instance that women weren't inclined to cheat. Okay, let's just go ahead and jump on that ledge and say they're not. Well, everyone has a mixture of masculine and feminine energy. So at any minute, I could just tune right into my masculine and go, whoops, look at him. You see what I mean? So we have to get over this idea that men and women are so different. And now masculine, feminine is very different, but we both have that. So if we just talked about yin and yang or masculine and feminine energy and accepted that everybody has it, we wouldn't be vulnerable to the blind spots. Because if I teach you that men are only this way, when I see a woman act that way, it'll just go right past me. I
Mm.
mean, there it used to be when studies were done, they didn't even pay any attention to the females. It wasn't until DNA testing when they were able to, test, like I think it was there was some the first test were on gorillas when they found out that none of the offspring belonged to the male. So and they were like, well, nobody ever saw her do it because one of the things that I talk about in my book, I can't remember the author, um, but she said that they never saw them. Like, what were they doing? And then when they went back, when they got the test results, they noticed that they would just wander off once a month. So if you think about that, if a woman's urges aren't as frequent, it goes undetected. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the bottom line is you start with, is infidelity, cheating on your partner, right or wrong? And if you believe that it's not right, then I don't give a shit why he did it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So we
Mm-hmm.
can go back from there. And that's one of the things when, men, they want to start exploring the reason before they get a commitment from the wife. It's like, well, she really just doesn't know what she wants. Because the subtitle of my book is Living in Limbo, what women really mean when they're not happy. And once a woman cheats, this is what I'll tell you that I've noticed. Uh, that once a woman cheats, she doesn't want to stop. It's
Mm.
like, whereas a man, he can, because and I'm talking to about more from a traditional male perspective. One of the things that Dr. Glover talks about is that each generation of men past World War II has become increasingly passive. So when we talk about males today, it's different than talking about males before. So the traditional male was never, he wasn't in the dark about his sex drive. He understood that he had impulses, and by the time he got married, he may have figured out ways to control those impulses. So once a woman cheats, if she's never done that before, if she's never cheated before, it's like, women are very honest when we're talking. It's like, there's no shame. Just let's get in there and let's talk about this. And it is, I'll die if it's like, I can't imagine, so it is a true just addiction. Her life just becomes all consuming about this affair. And the big difference, that's the thing that men are most fooled by, is this belief that women need an emotional connection to have sex. And so what I wanted to explain is that women need to be attracted to have sex. And if a woman is attracted to a man, she feels emotional connection. It could
Mm.
be the most superficial connection there is. So in terms of emotional connections, it's very different for men and women. Men's emotional connections are much deeper. Okay. A woman's are much more superficial. Dime a dozen. It's like spreading your seed. Like a man can have sex and it cannot be a big deal. A woman can make an emotional connection. It doesn't have to be a big deal. But if she's attracted, she'll make it a big deal. I've had women that have gone on a trip. They talked to someone for 20 minutes on a plane. And 2 weeks later, they're going to separate from their husband. They don't know
Mm.
shit about him. So it's a very superficial connection. So what women like is sex with a story, so it's not just sex. It's not, oh, he's just hot. I have to have a story in my head, and that's when you think about what soap operas are. Women
Mm-hmm.
are attracted to, just like men, the shadow side of the masculine is an attraction to physical violence. For women, it's an attraction to emotional violence. That the idea of cheating, that always plays a role in women's soap operas. And it's always set like in hospitals or fire stations where people are dying. So it's all this drama with my sex. You know what I mean? Like all this intensity of emotion. So it's really not a deep connection. It's just intensity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
typically women are the most attracted to men that scare them. It's, and so like a really masculine man, so she whether she's conscious of it or not, she doesn't she's afraid she's going to get hurt. Like this man's dangerous in some way. So just as men can be daredevils and climb mountains and go skydiving, and it's very physical, a woman wants to be a daredevil in a relationship. Oh, I might get killed emotionally. He might rip out my heart. So, these are the types of things that captivate women. It's sex with a story. And this is where men get confused and they're thinking, well, if I just treat her better, if I'm just a nicer guy, if I just ask her how she feels more. No, the guy she's sleeping with probably doesn't ask her how she feels. He treats her very much like a woman sexually. It's about desire, you know?
So I'm trying to put myself in a man's point of view who this is all brand new to him. And he's a very conservative, traditional man. You get married, you have woman, you're together forever and ever for 40, 50 plus years, and then you die. And now we've introduced to him, well, what do you think about, hey, Mr. Conservative Traditional Man, what do you think about the infidelity thing? What about women's infidelity? Rarely happens, and if it does, it's one off, yada, yada, whatever. Now we're come to him saying, well, actually, your wife's sexual energy within the marriage, the more it gets like traditional and let's use the term boring, predictable, safe, secure.
Boring, it's flat. Think of it as flat emotion.
Yeah. The flatter it is, in essence, kind of the safest it is. And that's what it's kind of antithetical to what a lot of men think, especially more traditional conservative types, is I want to make this as boring, safe, and predictable as humanly possible. So that's what he's been basically taught his whole life. He saw with his parents, his grandparents, make this boring, safe, predictable as humanly possible. Keep all danger out. And he's like, I've done this. And wait, now you're telling me that is the antithesis to passion and sexuality in my woman, and you're telling me she can be easily led away by here comes the pool boy, here comes the milkman. Here I'm showing my age. Here comes some outside influence can easily sway her and pull her away from this safe and secure thing that I have built with my hard labor and money and efforts and love and devotion. That is, I guess what I'm trying to say is, Michelle, are we laying the groundwork for a very anti-marriage, anti-traditional monogamy mindset?
No, I think that we are in a transitional period. So first, I want to point out that infidelity isn't a relationship issue; it's a development issue. By that I mean people only cheat at a certain level of development, and people are only desperate to save relationships with people that cheat at a certain level of development. These are problems that people have at a certain level of development. The solution is your development. It's kind of like, think of it as, I think one of the best analogies for infidelity is physical abuse. So if a woman is with a man that chooses to stay with a man that beats her. So let's say, for instance, that you're a psychologist and I'm coming for help, or just a friend. And I'm like, Ralph, I got to tell you, my husband's been beating me up. And I've been reading books about how to get your husband to stop punching you in the face. But my husband, he told me that he likes it. He likes punching me in the face. And he doesn't know if he wants to stop. Who's sicker, me or my husband? Mm-hmm. I mean, gun to head, you got to choose. I'm sicker. You know what I mean? So if your spouse cheats and doesn't, there isn't a recommitment to the marriage, because in my opinion, there's only two choices if your spouse cheats. One is to end the relationship, and the other is the relationships, the infidelity stops, or, it's done. It isn't and this doesn't mean that it happens quickly. It's just that you stop participating in the relationship. You see, you can set a quit date. It's like, I'm going to go work on myself. And and then I'm done when I'm healed from this, because it's such a traumatic thing. But, you don't understand how you feel about infidelity. And this is where a lot of men, if they don't think that if they think women are nationally monogamous, they don't think this is an issue they're going to have. Now, I find that modern men, they aren't like men from the past. I mean, it was very heartbreaking, which is what prompted me to write my book. Because I mean, once I kind of understood some of this stuff, I'd like done my own research, and I'm like, I'm finished now. I've got the answers I want. But old school males, I mean, they couldn't believe it. Like, it never even entered their head that their wives could cheat. It was just devastating. Their whole world was turned upside down. But I don't find that's the case with younger males. I mean, and I'm sure that you work with lots of men of lots of different ages. Um, I don't find that with the men that I'm working with now, they're not as shocked by it. And they are, and whether they're passive or not, these men are sleuths. They know exactly what their wives do. And that's one of the things that I tell the women that I work with, because women think that their husbands are clueless. Oh God, he doesn't know. He's so clueless. Like, honey, he's got every form of, he's recording every word you say. He's probably watched you have sex several times. I mean, it's amazing the type of tracking that the men do. So I just don't think that men view it the same. But I do believe that there are benefits to handling the situation the way that men are handling it. So modern men have, when we say that men are passive, what we're really saying is that modern men are more like women, which means they handle things by playing dumb, and they're going to continue to try to please and please and please in order to make themselves look good. So that when the relationship ends, they're going to make her end it, and they can tell everybody,
she's the bad guy. See, yeah,
yes. And so if you have, and when you are in a passive aggressive war, which is what most couples are in today, that each one of us just trying to wait each other out. It's like, I'm going to wait and make you take responsibility for this. So
that is a huge thing that I hear from so many men that are in relationships where it is obvious to me and to everyone around him that the wife is completely disconnected from him. She's given him every signal that she's just done. And she is also giving some signals that there may be somebody else in the picture. And I will ask these guys, have you ever thought about, and a lot of them go, let me stop you there. I have hacked her phone, her computer, just like what you said, the men tracking every little thing. I put trackers on her car. Dude, there's nothing. And I say, well, okay. And then the guys follow that up with, but I almost wish there was. Oh, why is that? Because then I have something to hang my hat on and say, look, everybody, the evil witch over here and what she forced me to do. She forced me to file for divorce from her.
See, that's interesting, because when I'm working with men, and I work with a very specific type of men. So this is men whose wives are cheating, and they're trying to save their relationship. And so they know that their wives are cheating. Now, women will often try to separate to hide the fact that they're still cheating. I've had men whose wives turn up pregnant by the other guy, and like have hidden themselves from their husband, like not let them, and still saying, "Oh no, I would never do that. I just need to find myself." So I have, women do use separation as a way to have the affair, to have the freedom to be able to sleep over, that type of thing. But the men, it doesn't matter, because one of the things I'll say to men is, what exactly would it take? I've had men that have seen their wives with the other person. They're still not going to end the relationship. So when you think about why would a man do that, one, it's to look like the good guy in the situation. But it's also a way to torture her. Because he knows she doesn't want to end the relationship. Like, she doesn't want to look like the bad guy. So it's like covert aggression. And to be submissive, to be submissive, what people don't get is submission is a covert act of aggression. Because think about it in the animal world. I show my neck, you have to stop. It's just automatic. You stop. You're not going to take the kill shot. So that's what people do in relationships. If I become submissive and start trying to please you, you won't take the kill shot. And so I'm in control, and I get to torture you. You get to look like the bad guy. It's not quite as wonderful as we think. So we have to be very careful about, in order to view it from this perspective, we have to look back at how women used to handle relationships, and we believe that they were such victims. So it's only now that men have adopted that because, of course, men can't be aggressive now. You see, so what we're really in the process of doing is understanding covert aggression. And once we understand that, we understand aggression. It's direct, it's overt. So this is the most complex thing to understand. It's and it's because it's deception. It's messing with someone's mind, and that's what covert aggression is. It's messing with someone's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a very dangerous thing. I mean, we have, like, right now, we have some really big cases that are out and, that just show just how far people will go to, just destroy someone. Because, reputation destruction is, that's a form of toxic femininity. And it's, it's unbelievable I mean, I'm sure you probably know some of the things that I'm talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, so if these things are true, I mean, it's just like, oh, man, and
Oof.
we don't come back from that. We are not forgiving of this. And this is one of the reasons why to really expose covert aggression, because in the past it was typically tied with women, we couldn't do it until we were civil enough to where we said aggression's bad. Because imagine a woman doing something like that and getting caught by a man when it was okay to hit a woman. You know what I mean? So, there's reasons why it's taken so long for us to get clear about this.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that is a very unlikely hero is Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, his willingness to expose the embarrassing parts of his life, to go, no, this isn't okay. You know, his willingness to do that really changed some things. And now we're seeing more of that. We're seeing more men step up. I don't know if because it was just a passing thing. The media highlights some things and hides others, but I can't think of his last name. He's a really popular guy. He was married to Sofia Vergara, Joe Magna, something. I can't.
Okay. Yeah.
He's a very famous guy and hot. He was in one of those strippers movies, whatever. When they got divorced, she came out, and one of the things she said is, well, I married a younger husband. So, and he wanted to have kids. So that's why we got divorced. And he
Wow.
came out and said, oh, no, that's not why we got divorced. And he went on to say, I would have never left her for that. And, this is the type of thing that men didn't used to do.
Didn't push
They didn't
back.
used to
Yeah.
stand up for themselves. They were just like, it's better just not to say anything. And men are starting to speak up a little bit. Another big one that happened was the Shia LaBeouf thing, where Olivia Wilde, she was directing her first movie, and she was, one of the big themes with women is that they want to prove that they're superior to men. Anytime you hear a woman talk, let me tell you why I'm better than men. So she talked about how safe uh, her set was. We have a very safe set, as female director, just all female director and blah blah blah. Well, anyway, Shia LaBeouf quit the film, and so they asked her about it, and she's like, "Well, I want to have a safe environment, so I'll do anything to have a safe environment."
Oh, implying that he's a bad
Yes.
apple.
And
Yeah.
see, she really, and he was in some trouble at the time. So it was really a low blow. But he comes out with a video that shows him at FaceTime with Olivia. He was quitting the film. He's like, I just can't do it. It was just a lie. So to make herself look good. And it's like, man, you just can't believe that people can do these things,
Yeah. Sticking with
So
the Hollywood gossip thing, I wonder where it's going to end up. The Angelina Jolie Brad Pitt thing that kind of raised an eyebrow with me because she's been exhibiting some borderline traits, throughout the years with some
for
of
a
her.
long time. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so then we see this. She's really demonizing the ex Brad Pitt, and the whole family is against him
For
now. So I'm
so
like,
many years. The one thing that's interesting about that, because when they've been married for a long time. So when they first got married, women would always say, well, I mean, some affairs could last. I mean, look at Angelina Jolie. And by the way, I have a friend that went to school with him, so it's not very far from here. But anyway, that was something that women would say because they want to know, could this affair last? Could it last?
Mhm.
Uh, but the links, because I have found that she stayed with it long enough that she's starting to sway the media a little bit. Like initially, people were like, "Oh my god," because but you're talking about 8 to 10 years of just like reaching for the neck, and I am going to make sure that you're seen as the bad guy. So yeah, that's a really really sad situation.
And hey, we don't know. She could very well be the good guy in this one. He could be a royal
Well, the thing
a-hole.
is,
And
here's the thing: the one thing with this particular case is that from what she was saying, this was one incident. Every interview, he's the greatest guy on earth. He's amazing. He's the best father. He's the best whatever. One incident. So what you're saying is that he got drunk, he acted like an ass, and you have decided to destroy him and remove him from your children's lives?
Hmm.
That doesn't make sense because that's what
Mhm.
it is. And she spent years jumping through hoops to get I don't know, the transcript or something from what happened on the plane. But it's one incident.
Hmm.
That's what it is.
Interesting.
This isn't like, oh, Brad Pitt beat me throughout our marriage. It was one incident. So
Hmm.
that's a very interesting, so when you say she's exhibiting borderline traits,
Mhm.
I mean, like, man,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
hardcore, and so, but again, this is stuff that happens at a certain level of development because, there's at a certain level, we're just, learning. And so
Are you
when
are you
you,
saying that people, like these women, let's stick with the ladies in affairs, are they exhibiting an immaturity, a level of personal emotional development that is akin to like a child?
well, yeah, it's not adult. So if you
Yeah.
think about, uh, there are certain people that, you know, and if you look at Angelina Jolie, she has a pattern of getting involved with men that are in other relationships. Okay, so people who have blatant uh, commitment problems, like it's very open. They just can't seem to commit. You will find that when they eventually do commit, it's to somebody that was involved with someone else. There's some crazy story attached to it because that is a symptom of the commitment problem. Well, what's a commitment problem? A commitment problem is that I can only operate on one side of the brain at a time. So when you hear people say, well, he's a really nice guy and I really like him, but I'm just not attracted to him. And then you hear them say, how come it's the guys that that are assholes that I just really am attracted to? So that's what it is. It's that, I can't, uh, I haven't been able to, you know, uh, balance my need for, uh, attachment, relationship, and my need for excitement and independence. I haven't been able to balance that yet. So, in
Mhm.
order for me to commit and feel like I'm all in, it has to be some crazy story. Oh, he lives in another country, and I've had women with that. You know,
Mhm.
I met this guy on a plane, and the only thing is he lives in a different country, and you know, these things aren't coincidences.
I,
So the less
yeah.
developed we are, the more distance we need. That's the protection to keep us from attaching too deeply. Because, you know, when we marry, if we're not fully developed, we attach to our spouse in the same way that a child attaches to a parent. That can be very dangerous. Think about that. When you see these people that go through such devastation when a relationship ends, that's why. I mean, think about the pain of a child being separated from a parent,
Yeah.
and furthermore, them saying, "Well, I found this other little boy that I like better." So that's the way the unconscious mind is interpreting this. So it is only through maturity that we're able to not attach that deeply. So when people, some people can't see their spouse. It's like, it's too painful for me, I have to cut off contact. It's because they attach too deeply, you know? And so they won't attach that deeply again. So but that first time, it's like, it was so traumatic. Uh, so yeah, it's a development thing. As we grow and mature, we understand that one, everyone is a mixture of positive and negative qualities. Men ask me all the time, well, how can I know if she'll cheat? Well, the question that you're asking is a sign that you're not very developed, that you can't handle it, you know? And so if you can't handle it, you won't be able to see the signs. People tell you
Mm.
the way that words that people use, they tell you whether they're committed or not, you know? So, but you don't understand that until you become committed. So a lot of men who are having these issues, they're not fully committed. They haven't developed yet. Dr. Glover says this in his book. Unhealthy people aren't attracted to, healthy people aren't attracted to unhealthy people. They're not.
It's true.
So we meet people at the same level. And so we will act out one side of that. Either we'll be the pursuer or the distancer. Either we'll be the one that's pushing away. So it's two sides of the same coin. The problem is that we have so much sympathy for the one that's in pursuit. Oh, the poor thing. Well, the reason that they're so all in is because they're excited. The other person's not, because of the way you're acting. Do you see what I mean? So at that level, we can experience power or passion. So if you have the power, you don't have any passion.
Mm.
And if you have the passion, you don't have any power, or at least you don't think you do. So the solution is to level up. It's to transcend dominant and submissive behavior and move into a new level of functioning.
It's interesting. You talk about these women having stories around the infidelity. You're going to love this. I polled my social media followers across Facebook and YouTube, which is some 300 some thousand people. And I said, number one, are you a man or woman? And number two, have you cheated? And number three, if so, why? And 36% of the men said, yes, I did cheat. Why did you? The number one reason was I wasn't getting any at home sexual activity with the wife. I felt depleted, so I got it elsewhere. The number two reason was, I don't know, man, I was just stupid. One thing led to another. I had a drink. I was a business trip. I was with a party. It was stupid. I never did it again. The women, on the other hand, 33% of the women said I did.
Yeah. So almost the same.
Almost the same,
Yeah.
surprisingly. And why did you? Paragraphs and paragraphs of stories. It was a dark and stormy night. I met him. Da, 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 da. But the gist of the story wasn't so much the romanticizing of their new lover. It was the demonizing of the man that she cheated on.
The husband.
In essence, I had no choice but to cheat.
He forced me.
Look how awful he was.
The songs that we have. Look what you made me do. That's a song, very popular. So it's look what you made me do. And this is what I mean. This is the missing link for equality. That's the equality women just don't have yet, is equal accountability. And once that happens, everything changes. So yeah, it's amazing. And there's a tremendous amount of shame that, women feel. But growth for women is becoming aware of your shadow side. One of the things I tell women is, and they take it very well. I mean, the conversations that I have with women, because it's no bullshit, but one of the things that we have to work on is you're not as good of a person as you think you are. That's where we start. It's like not quite as good of a person as you think you are.
Yeah, one of the
that because men can much more easily critique themselves. It's like that's wrong and I can do better. Whereas a woman, because that's the technique she uses is shame. Shame is the technique women use. Men use force, women use shame. You're bad. So this is, this is why women go through such a hard time. It's like they don't see how they can get back to that feeling like I'm good, I'm a good person, without leaving the husband. Imagine that that's the club you use with everything, that I'm morally superior, you know, and you're looking at your husband every day going, and then
Mhm.
you screw somebody. How do you're everything about you and your life and your marriage, everything changes in that instant.
Wow.
So,
It's
yeah, and the other thing with men and
yeah.
infidelity, when they can say, I did something stupid, is that the man's attachment to the sex wasn't, uh, it's sex. He doesn't feel like he has to tell himself a story because, to make himself, it's like, hey, I was so dumb, you know. Whereas the woman's, she's got to go digging. And also, as long as a woman's trying to figure it out, women feel as long as they're confused, it makes cheating not count. So that's why it's like staying in this, I don't know what to do. It's because I get to keep cheating if I'm
Mm,
confused, you know.
yeah.
And if they separate, they think it doesn't count. But the one thing that men need to know, because you know, women are in so much pain and they get to, so many tears. We're in this limbo state. And men are like, oh my God, I can tell she's sincere. She's in so much pain. I said, well, if she wasn't, would she still be there? So men need to understand that that's part of it. That's like
Yeah.
all addiction is about, I feel the thing that makes me feel good also makes me feel bad.
Mm,
So it's the swinging from low to high of the drama. That's it. So when you think about, and this will sound a little bit crass, but when you think about men and physically sex, the in and the out and the in and the out, women are like that emotionally. Oh,
mm.
bad, good, bad, good. It's the swinging back and forth. So with men, they can empty out and they're done. Like now I feel good, I'm energized. Women with sex, they're filled up. So it's like a woman can stay high off of a man until the man commits. So the way that a man feels uh, prior to having sex with a woman, where he can be lusting, it's like, oh my God, so that lust that he may feel, and then after he has sex, if there's no emotional connection, it's like it's done, like there's nothing.
Hmm.
That's the way a woman feels after a man commits to her.
Mm.
It's the same thing. It's like, oh, it's done because the grand story. And notice that all love stories end like that. All rom coms, it's when the guy gets the girl. It's not
Hmm.
anything about the actual relationship. It was the pursuit of the commitment, and all the obstacles to get it. So a woman is not, she doesn't get any juice from a man that commits to her,
Mm.
and especially if he's easy to commit. It's about, you know, the thrill is getting this man who has all of these options or these other options. And that's part of the romance for the woman is she fantasizes about the possibility of another woman taking him. And what if he needs somebody else, like during an affair when women really lose their mind when they're seeing single men.
And
Is it?
well, that's exhibit number, insert large number here for why a lot of men out there hearing this say exhibit number whatever for do not get married, do not commit, because we are wired as men for that early stage, fighting for the commitment stage, the
Mhm.
courtship phase. We come alive during that. We never feel more alive and validated than when we are with a woman who is so in love with us in that way. And then sure enough, a lot of us report as soon as we moved in together, as soon as we said I do, as soon as we
Yeah.
had that first kid, it just slowly went down to the point where we're like, we went from, some of the men have these extremes of we went from having intercourse several days or several times a day, every day, to once every couple of months if I'm lucky. That's a
Yeah.
drastic shift. And you're like,
Yeah.
when did the wheels fall off, mister? Well, probably around the time we said I do, probably around the time she moved
Right.
in with me. That's when I really noticed the kids is like the death blow. That's what we see for a lot of men. As soon as the kids came in the picture, oh, wow, it really changed. So a lot of men hearing you say, well, that's it then. That's just further evidence for why should we commit in that way. What do you say to men that say that?
That question needs to be answered. Why would I get married? And to really consider, why would you get married? It isn't just to not be alone. It isn't just to not, or just to have a companion. I mean, what is the purpose of us being together? Do we have a purpose? I think that it's hard for us to understand if we haven't experienced, uh, let's call it like a deeper level, or uh, you know experience true purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like if
Mm-hmm.
it really, what we think about at one level is very different than what we think about at another level. So there is a lack of seriousness in getting married, and men can just say, well, but I'm committed. But what are you committed to? What are you committed to? You're just not going to leave, right? Well, that there has to be more than, there's got to be meaning, there's got to be a reason. Why are we together? What are we doing? you know and I think, when we're, like, not to go off on unrelated, or it's related, but possibly not what people want to hear, but when the mind's integrated and you start getting in touch with your higher self, your intuition, or even your spiritual self, God, whatever you want to call it, it's just, life becomes, has a lot more meaning, and things, you know, relationships just become very different. They just aren't, hey, somebody to go to dinner with, somebody to, and I'm not talking about just having deep conversations and that, but I'm talking about real purpose in life. Why are we together? What are we doing? So you move from this assumed way of living to a, conscious choice. So the relationships in the future that will last, it will be because both people consciously chose. They didn't assume, oh, I was just attracted to him and we met and we had this little story together. No, it was a conscious choice about the type of life they want to live and what they're committed to and their values and whatever. And it's not just assumptions that they make. I mean, you know, we're in a place where people are starting to consider it, but now I just think people have switched to, let's just do the opposite of, it's like opposite day. If you're supposed to get married, well, let's not get married. If you're
Yeah.
supposed to, you know what I mean? So
Rebelling. Mm-hmm.
yeah, rebellion. So, but there comes a point, and are you familiar with Dr. Shark?
No.
Okay. One of the best books. Now, I think that he's, probably when he works with clients, and, it's, it's probably much more fleshed out, but one of the best books, in my opinion. I always say, if you could combine Esther Perel and David Schnark, you'd understand. But you got to
Mm-hmm.
combine them, because Esther's very much into feelings and going to explain it. Okay, but what's the solution? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Whereas Dr. Schnark is, okay, this is what you feel, but here's a solution. Like, he gets down in there. And so his book, Intimacy and Desire, is just excellent. And he said that, the loss of sexual desire is a normal stage of marriage. It is a normal stage. So your development, in order to get through that, you're going to have to develop. So, you're going to have to learn how to be what I call freestanding and fully functioning, which means you become a person who is able to maintain a separate identity. Because you think in relationships, in order to be fulfilled, I have to be able to merge and separate. I have to be able to retain my shape. Okay, so I can merge, but I have to be able to come back and still be me. What most people do is they become something different, and they emotionally fuse with their partner. And so what they're really seeking in an affair is to express a different part of themselves. The more
Mm-hmm.
developed you are, you understand these parts, and you don't have to fragment yourself like that, you know. But he calls it, he says, there at some point in marriage, to just to feel like it's tyranny. It's like, it's like, oh my God. And anyone who's been married a long time, you know, because the name of my book was going to be originally, when I first started writing, it was going to be called The Interim: What Falls Between Getting Married and Living Happily Ever After.
I like it. It's pretty good. You should hang on to that one. That's good.
So it's like that middle period.
Yeah.
So anyway, and that's when most people, when they get married, they're not committed. They're not actually committed. They're just like, hey, I like him, let's do that. There's a seriousness that's completely lacking. And so once you go through this, like these difficult periods of the marriage, that's when it's like you really make a commitment. Am I gonna stay? And why am I gonna stay? And it's a real commitment. So can a relationship become deeper? Yes. Most people don't want to do the work though, because it feels like just pushing them out of a hill. They don't know how to regulate themselves. So when someone has an affair, it's not really about the relationship, it's about energy. They're using the affair to regulate themselves. So I feel bad. I don't know how to feel good. I saw this guy. I felt instantly good within 30 seconds. As Loretta Burning says, whatever takes you from feeling bad to feeling good quickly is normally bad for you. And it is, and she's excellent. She has a newsletter called the Mammal Institute. But anyway, so that's what this is. It's a very basic thing, is that the average person hasn't been emotionally potty trained yet. So they're still pissing their emotions all over everybody and holding people responsible for their emotions. So if you don't know how to regulate your emotions, you're not safe to be in a relationship with. That's just the bottom line. I mean,
Yeah.
and once you start to mature, it becomes absurd, like the absurdity of holding someone responsible for your feelings. Like it literally becomes absurd.
Mm-hmm.
You made me feel, as opposed to, I didn't like it when you did that. But, it's not about that person has to change. I just have to make decisions on my own. So,
What do you think about the phrase, not everybody is cut out for this long-term monogamy thing? And us trying to shoehorn everybody into that is a
well,
fool's errand,
I
I guess you
have
could
to
say.
talk to people that are, that have open marriages and that type of thing. And I believe that, and Dr. Schnark points this out, most healthy people, like healthy, developed people would prefer a monogamous marriage. But if I'm not cut out for it, if I'm not cut out for long-term commitment, think about that. I'm not capable. Think about it like a little kid. If you take your kids out and you say, okay, I need you guys to behave. We're just going to be there for an hour. And they might be able to do it, but they might not be able to do it for 3 hours. That's too big of a commitment.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. It's like, okay, I can be faithful I cannot sleep with anybody for like a year, but I don't know if I can do it for 10 years. I heard Chelsea Handler just said that on a podcast. She said, I'm not uh, into long-term commitment. So it was like, she said that she used to have like, I think several lovers at a time. And she said, I'm just into more shorter term commitment. Well, which means that you can't push past that hard part. That's
Yeah.
really what it means, is that I don't have the capacity to start problem solving and to start going deeper. So I'm just going to get into a relationship. It'll seem, like it's, exciting, but I'm still just going to be going back. So I'm just going to go back to the beginning.
Repeat the same patterns again and again,
Yeah.
regardless. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a new person. It seems new, but it's not new. Same shit. Same shit, different guy, you know? And so it's like, how many times do you want to do that? And eventually, as people mature, they're like, yeah, I don't need to do that again. That becomes very superficial. They want to go further. They feel but it's only when they're ready. Like if they're not ready, if someone says, I'm not cut out for it, then they're not ready for it. Then you also have people that don't want to have a relationship at all. It's like, yeah, it's not because they think it's bad or anything like that. It's just, yeah, I've done that. I don't need to experience that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's whatever feels, whatever feels comfortable for people. But be honest about it. Is it really because you're not interested in it is because you can't do it. Like, and it shouldn't be something that I'm resigned to doing. It's that it's just like if you've ever been uh, committed to anything else, and if maybe your purpose, like if there's ever been anything that you're so committed to, like you would never take a shortcut, because that's really what a commitment is. When you're not going to take the shortcut, you're going to just go as deep as you can go, and it's going to, at some point, it's going to be torture. I mean, if you've ever written or stayed with something, maybe your podcast, it's like, oh, this has been such a, you know, but you're committed to it. If you're committed to it, you're just going to keep going. You're going to keep pushing through, and eventually you get through that. And there's that sense of pride, and so to me, it's Chopra explained this best. He said, is commitment, that there are levels of commitment. So the first level of commitment, I'm just going to kind of check this out, put my toe in the water. Second level of commitment is like, well, I'm ready to, I'll, jump through some hoops here. I'll overcome some obstacles. And then the third level is I will become the expert. So that's really when I think of relationships. And if you're committing to someone, am I willing to become the expert with this person? Like, are we going to be experts at this? Are we just going to keep going until, and I think it's admirable. I think that what will change relationships is that sense of sacredness and honor. And right now we don't have that. People are just like everything. So, but we have regressed. Are you familiar? Like, do you know who Ken Wilber is?
I don't think so.
Okay. He's, some people consider him like the greatest living philosopher. So he's written the brief history of everything. He's written all kinds.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay. So he wrote a short, I don't know what you call it. It's called a short, teeny weeny book, and it was called the post-Trump truth or something like that. And he talks about in there that we have regressed, and that's where we're at right now. So what does that mean to regress? You think about it, we're much more childlike now, and we do what we feel like doing. And when you think about what Shackleton says, that we've transitioned from the patriarchy to the matriarchy. Well, what does that mean? The feminine is feelings. So it's how I feel. It may not be the truth, but it's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's where we are right now. And so it's a necessary step because we have to learn how to process feeling. And we have to learn that feelings really just aren't as big of a deal as we make them out to be. And that doesn't mean that feelings aren't important, but we're not going to live in them. We're not going to swim in them. We're not going to just stay stuck in it. You just process them,
One difficulty is that if I'm a guy and I'm like, I do have the mental tools in my toolbox to do this long-term monogamy thing. I'm wired for it. I'm down for the commitment. I'm down to growing and ascending as a human being with another person. But they're going to say, Michelle, Ralph, dude, have you seen what's available on the market right now? I'm trying to find this gal, and I got all these people. And a lot of men will fight back and say, I'm not sure I want to be a woman's punching bag as she tries to figure herself out, because some of that figuring herself out in the middle of the relationship could in turn be like affairs. Can I, weather the storm of an affair?
That's a symptom of a man that actually isn't very well developed. He wouldn't attract those type of women.
There you go. Yeah.
You see what I mean? So
it's
when
like a non-issue.
When a man says, "Oh, I just really want to have a relationship," what I see him is that because the feminine part of us enjoys longing. So he's in his feminine where he wants the relationship because he knows that the women today don't really want the relationship. So he can long for it. And as long as we're longing for it, we don't have to be committed. Can you be attracted to someone who's attracted to you? That's the thing, is that can you experience, because that's where you have that intimacy, and that's scary. Most of us can't tolerate real intimacy because we've never experienced it. We didn't experience it from our kids. Because real intimacy, I'm not talking about anything sexual. I'm talking about just allowing yourself to be seen. Seeing another person. And that was something that I definitely didn't. I mean, I used to think, gosh, I'm open, I can express feelings and I'm intuitive and all that shit. No, I was not.
Mhm.
It's like, no. And I remember really becoming aware of, yeah, I really don't want to be safe. I I'm a bit of an introvert, I don't have any problems, as you can tell, talking. I don't have any problems talking. I'm not, shy, but I'm an introvert. I like to, I used to say I like to disappear. I like to be
Mhm.
able to just, I'm an observer. That would be the best way. I'm an observer. So, uh, which you're not engaging when you're observing.
Mm.
And so it was kind of like standing outside and, you know, so that was kind of odd for me to realize, like, wow, you know, so we don't know ourselves as well as we think we do. And once you make that commitment, to me, the commitment comes uh, to self first, which is the conscious decision to take 100% responsibility for your internal state, and getting to know the parts of yourself that are frightened and being there for the parts of yourself. Like, really, some people call it, your inner child, your inner adult. If that language doesn't resonate with you, just my rational mind is going to be there for my emotional mind, as opposed to the emotional mind leading the
Mhm.
show. You know, uh, in The Whole Brain Child, the authors say that when we're only able to operate from one side of the brain at a time, it's like swimming with one arm. And I thought that was such a perfect analogy. Because that's it. You just and you watch people when you're talking to them. You watch them go around in circles, and they just keep going. Some people will have these tremendous breakthroughs. Then you go, oh no, they were just swimming on one side of the brain for a second. They can't handle it, and they'll just go right into denial again if they can't handle it. If I, uh, if I face the truth, then I'm going to have to do something about it. The whole illusion collapses. So it's very difficult to face some things because it changes my whole world. So it everything's different. And I don't know if you've ever had one of those moments. Well, you
Oh
have.
yeah.
When you
Oh
wake
yeah.
up
Oh
and
yeah.
your whole world's like nothing is the same
Yep.
as it was.
You got it.
It takes a long time to, process all of that.
Yeah. I've often said that if somebody knew me from the past before all of this, 12 plus years ago, and saw me now, they'd be like, that is not the same dude that's not the Ralph that I knew back then. Yeah, I'm a totally different human being. We all go through natural changes, of course, as we progress in life, but there's always that, what I call that old holy shit moment, excuse my language,
Mm,
that kind of wakes you up to go, oh boy, and totally flips the paradigm of your life and your perspective on life. Totally.
yeah.
And any guy that's gone through that is in the middle of that. They don't see it that way. They see this is just this, I'm in this is the most acutely horrible moment of my life. It's emotionally
Mhm.
horrible. And I say, well, let me just put you at ease somewhat. You're in good company, because literally every great man that I have known who's made something of themselves has had such a moment in their life. This holy shit moment of like, this changes
Yeah.
everything. Which way you go with it is up to you, but you're at a pretty big crossroads in your life.
And
And
see, that's what I see women are going to have to go through. Sometimes I just tell them, you're just going to have to go through this. Because she's like, what if I, break up my family? And, well, obviously you have no intentions of stopping what you're doing. And that's really
mm,
where the pain from the woman comes from. She knows she's not going to stop, and she knows how much pain she's causing everybody. So she just wants to muddy the water so she doesn't have to take that, you know, so that other people, she knows the truth. She doesn't want other people to know. You see what I mean?
oh,
So it's
absolutely.
got to be like
Yeah.
something else caught, like it was just completely out of my control. But the pain of that, and men have so much power in these situations. God, I mean, when how rapid everything turns around, for men when they start taking the right steps, and you just watch them, the woman completely doesn't about face. So they have so much power in the situation. But the problem is a lot of men are conflicted and they're angry and and they don't want to do the right thing because, to save the marriage, because they don't think she deserves it, but they also want to look like the good guy, so they're
Mm.
conflicted. So the man's conflict is the same as the woman. There's one really important point that I want to talk about, that is, because I think it's the most important thing to understand about women, is that women control the anger of others. And if you can control someone's anger, you can prevent them from taking action. So in these situations when the woman is crying so upset, oh my God, what she's doing is she's preventing the man from getting angry. And this is why when women in relationships, they always transition, or at least attempt to transition the man into a friendship. Because because then now she doesn't have to experience any pain. She's not going to lose anything. She gets to keep him as an emotional support, and she gets to keep him from destroying her reputation, any retaliation. Do you see what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
whenever you're in a situation with a woman and she's trying to, like, you're on the brink of breaking up or whatever, you get some kernel of truth and you start to get upset. And she said, well, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm just confused. She's trying to diffuse your anger, because if you get angry, you'll see her clearly. You'll take action. So don't allow someone you don't express your anger, your aggression or whatever, but do not allow your anger to be controlled. Your anger is your friend.
Many
So
a
get
man,
angry.
many a man can report that he discovers wife's affair. They're still in this process of, are we working through this or not? But it's relatively amicable between the two of them. It's not as contentious. They're still in this kind of weird limbo state. She's doing her thing. He's doing his. He's really sad. She seems to be somewhat remorseful about what she did. Other times not, but at least it's somewhat calm. And then she discovers that he made the huge mistake of telling somebody outside of the relationship about what
Oh
she
yeah.
did. So some mutual friend or something, and it gets back to her. Did you have an affair on Bob? And she's like, whoa. And the claws come out, and he's like,
Yes.
I should have never done that because, oh my
My
goodness.
opinion, a man, no, he should have absolutely done it. He should have
Yeah.
done it from day one. He's not angry or vengeful. It's just, uh, let's call her Lisa. Lisa's met someone and she thinks that she might be happier with him. And Lisa feels the brunt immediately of, yeah, I was at the grocery store. I saw this hot dude, and now I'm going to break up my family.
It's
And
suddenly a,
she must feel that,
mm,
because that's exactly what she's doing. So there's two ways to end a relationship. We can pull the rug out,
mm-hmm.
or we can do it so slowly that we really don't know if it's happening, which is weaning. Just like a parent weans a baby from a bottle. It's like, just kind of keep the bottle away longer and longer. This is exactly what women do to men. So if I can end the relationship slow enough, he won't see it as something significant that's happening. Like, well, nothing's really changed. So couples live in limbo for years. Now we have people that are nesting. And what that basically means is, I am going to be tied to you, which is exactly what the woman wants. I want to keep my husband, and this is just, men did the same thing in the past. They had mistresses. They put up their mistress and they had their wife. So they
Yep.
got their, because each side of the brain has an opposite drive. I have my family, and then I have my freedom and independence. So this is exactly what women are doing, only they're doing it now, like looking like they're a good person. Like, yeah, it's unbelievable to me. And psychologists bring this up all the time. Yeah, a nesting arrangement, which is basically an open marriage.
Yeah. That's in
And,
essence what we're
and the
talking about.
woman
Yeah.
still treats the man like crap, the husband like crap. He has to put up with abuse from the wife still. He's like afraid, walking on eggshells. Well, I don't want to upset her. She'll make it rough for the kids. No, men have to overcome their fear. They have to do things right. It's like, start operating above board. That's what and not that phony, I'm going to be a nice guy, look like it. No, you start doing things right. You have to do some soul searching. It's like, does this seem right to me? You
Mm.
know, you don't ever want to, that's the part that just, breaks my heart to watch these men live in fear, and then to find out. I mean, like, some of the stories are
Bad.
horrifically sad.
Oh, I've heard them. I just had a guy wrote into me the other day. He just found out his 4-year-old is not his.
Oh,
And that's the ultimate in kicking the balls to the guy, so to speak. Excuse my language. You know, I fell in love with this child. I love him more than anything. I would murder for this child. It's not mine. I mean, how do you process that? I can't imagine. That's tough. But that's the ultimate that men worry about, the old paternity
yeah.
fraud thing.
Well, that's why we had the belief that, that's what I explained in Women's Infidelity. That's where the belief came from, that women were naturally monogamous.
Mm-hmm.
How else could you get men to support women and their kids?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll tell you a funny story just about how, and this is after I wrote my book. So my book is specifically about this stuff. I bring up the DNA testing, all that stuff. I go to meet a friend, a girl that I work with. She had me come to her house, and, I met her husband and his brother. Well, we've had many conversations. She knows what I do, and that was at the time when I just finished the book. So she knows. And her husband is probably 5'8". His brother comes over and he's 6'7". And I make a joke. What, do you guys have different dads?
Oh.
And she looked at me
Like,
and she pulls me through. She goes, "You're not supposed to." I'm like, oh my, this is a secret. So her mom had a male friend, real tall male friend, and they just never talked about it.
Yep.
And it was just unbelievable to me. So, yeah, imagine the sense of the violation, and the financial, we use the word rape, but the financial rape, the emotional rape of, and we don't talk about that. We don't talk about, it's like, you can't talk about this, and women, they might say, well, oh, it doesn't, what's the big deal? Men have to say, oh, no, it is a big deal. It's a really big deal. And there was a story, I don't know the specifics of it, but what I do know is that a man set himself on fire on the courthouse steps.
Yep.
Okay. And it didn't make national news.
I remember hearing, I don't know how, probably through my, man's related internet talk stuff, but you're right. It wasn't like a national news story. Yeah.
And here's what I say about that. That it's, and it really, men have such courage. That was that guy going, I just want this, just
making a point.
We never talk about men's positive traits, honor, courage, and sacrifice. It's just so sad to me. What we've done for the last few decades is just tragic. And have you read The Boy Crisis?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just sad. And I am close to some of that, just some of the tragedy of, with some young males that have suffered, it's just terrible, without a dad, and some of the things that they've experienced.
That's a whole other rabbit hole we could go down. The absence of fathers is the cause of a lot of things, and that we're seeing, that you and I see on a daily basis. Absolutely. For men and women both.
Right.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. So, Michelle Langley, where can people find out more about you and what it is that you do?
Maybe just go to women'sinfidelity.com.
Women'sinfidelity.com. And you have a couple of books that people can purchase directly from that site.
Yeah, directly
Very
from the
good.
site.
And can people book time with you? Can they work with you on these issues?
I do breakthrough sessions with people. And I also have a course. The course is not an online course, though. It's very personal. So
very good.
It's working with me for 6 weeks. And I work with men and women.
Okay. Excellent. Michelle Langley, you don't do many of these interviews, so I am privileged. And I want to say thank you so very. You should do. You're a natural at this. I mean, you're good. I mean, this is awesome. I could talk to you all day long. So we should do it again sometime. This has been great. Thank you so very much.
Great talking to you too, Ralph. I really enjoyed it.
All righty. I appreciate you. Everything you do. So keep it up, please. And don't give up, keep up the good fight. Your name came up because so many men said, have you ever thought about interviewing? When you hear it like the 20th time, you're like, okay, let me time out. I didn't realize I had already read both your books. So Yes, but the name Michelle Langley, I didn't make the connection. I was like, wait a minute, I've
Oh,
read
I
this
see.
before. I was like, yeah, I've seen this.
Yeah, because
So
they've been
yeah,
out for a while. They've been
yeah,
out for a while.
years ago when I went through all my stuff, I went on this manic surge of reading about as much as I could on the topic, and that's what led me to all this. And yours was one of
Nice.
those.
You read my books when you were going through it or after
Yeah,
you had gone through it?
after I went through it. Yeah,
Hmm,
yeah. hmm
okay.
That
And
No
so,
More Mr.
in
Nice Guy.
retrospect, would you say that, as hard as it was, that, you said that you're a different person, but you're a different person in a much, much better way?
I am saying what every man that goes through something like this says. It was awful going through it. I wish I didn't, but kind of glad I did.
Yeah,
It
we have a very childlike view of relationships prior to
mhm,
going through something like this. So it's really like
a
growing up.
Pollyannish view. Yeah, it wakes you up. It's a wake up call for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Michelle Langley, thank you so very much. I appreciate
you're
you.
welcome. Nice meeting
All
you
right.
around.
Nice meeting you.